Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 4th meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Please take note of all the exits around the room in case of emergency. And a particular welcome to some students here tonight who've forgone classroom instruction for what I guess we'll call real-world experience. We'll try not to bore you, I promise. Please join me as we salute the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item is a new public hearing for a lot line realignment between the lands of SABIA and Schwartz. Making a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The applicants want to come forward, please?
We're just circulating. They're not coming.
Oh, right, yeah, right.
So for the audience, this is, to us on the board, what seems like a very simple application. There's a purchase and transfer of 45 acres from adjoining parcels. Would you like to add anything, gentlemen? Yes? Do you want to add anything to that? Microphone?
Please use the microphone.
Sorry. I did want to speak to the point you raised, Peter, regarding the
Easement,
easement.
water easement.
I spoke to a friend of mine who knows more about this than I do, and my main takeaway was not that it was a good idea or a bad idea, but he said this is something that really it requires a lot of thought and due diligence. So I'm not going anywhere. If the Water Authority wants to contact me, they'll know where to reach me.
Okay, that's fine. We
For
just asked, that's all.
Yeah, for the purposes
So,
of the
appreciate your
audience, the
consideration.
first time you're hearing this, this particular parcel could be utilized to extend a municipal water line through a neighborhood that's not too far away to serve ultimately another neighborhood that's having water quality and water quantity problems. So while there's nothing that's part of this application that would require the owner, Mr. Schwartz, to provide the easement, we brought up the issue nonetheless, because it's good planning for the long run. Let me start with the left. Any comments from the consultants?
No, not me.
Ms. Polidoro?
I do have some comments. As you said, it was a simple subdivision, but we did have some last-minute concerns from some of the consultants. Right now, before you, you have a conditioned resolution to approve the plat, and the conditions would include adding a bulk table. Can't hear me? Okay, is that
There you
better?
go, there you
That's
go.
good.
We don't control that, believe it or not. It's down in the basement.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Two items I just wanted the board to weigh in on. One was a request for the applicant to show the location or approximate location of the septic disposal systems. The engineer has weighed in and said the lots are big enough that he doesn't believe it's an issue. But the concern is to make sure that the SDS for each is located on the lot and is not being conveyed as part of the land transfer. So I'm sure the applicant's consultant can address that tonight. The other is that this is an average density subdivision, and it's been the board's practice on particular applications where there are subdivisions for residential lots to require a calculation of average density and assign it between the lots, especially when there's going to be a retained open space parcel. Here, it's not the case. There's 2 lots and no new lots are being created, so the density would transfer. But there has been a request to either assign density to each lot and have them do the calculation, or I think a workaround would be a statement on the plat just saying that density is to be calculated in accordance with the code.
So to put this in layman's terms, I hope, our code only has average density subdivisions, so what that means is in this particular district, you're allowed 1 house per 2.5 dwelling acres. And by average, what we mean is that you could put up 10 houses on half-acre lots, so long as whatever your total that you're allowed in for your acreage would come out to be an average of 1 per 2.5 acres. So you could have some as large as 10, 20-acre lots, some as large as half-acre lots. Again, the average has to be 2.5. But because we're not, so we changed the law, at our request, the town board changed the law a while back for lot line revisions, which are treated under our code as minor subdivisions only. It used to be that if you had any kind of subdivision, you had to set aside 30% permanent open space. So it'd be legally conserved, a described document that would be no further development. We changed it so that when no new houses are proposed and no new lots, you're just transferring lot acreage from one lot to another, that the open space requirement would not therefore kick in. So what Ms. Polidoro and I had a conversation before, because this was our zoning administrator, Ms. Moss, who raised the issue. By giving up some of the land, 45 acres, you're giving up from your current parent parcel, Mr. Sabia, or Dr. Sabia, you're giving up some density. By not reserving, so to speak, some, and saying, well, in that calculation, I could have had, let's say, 20 houses. By not saying, I'm going to keep those 20, just giving the land for free, but with no development on it, all of the density that's allowed transfers to your parcel. That's all. I figured you were, and what we'll ask for the condition, I've tried to change it just to say that a note to be added on the map stating that density for the acreage to be added to the Schwartz parcel conveys, something like that.
Michael,
Is that
could
acceptable?
I just ask for
Yeah.
clarification?
Can you move the microphone closer to you?
The number of lots, I have no plans to develop.
Right.
The number of lots that would have been allowed when John owned the property will be the same number of lots that will be allowed under my ownership?
Yes.
For that particular piece that's being
For those
transferred.
45 acres?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
We didn't ask you to initially calculate density because in the Greenbelt, there's a more elaborate formula. You have to take out certain wetlands. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it before you get your calculation. So it didn't seem sort of fair to make you go through that hoop. We just want to make sure that there's an acknowledgement that you're giving up the right to some housing if you should choose to develop in the future, or some developer in the future, and you're accepting it. That's all. Anything else, Victoria?
That's it.
Any comments from the board,
No, no.
No.
left or right? Let me
Do I
open this,
have to revise the resolution?
unless you can read my horrible, scratchy handwriting, you may need to.
She's going to try.
Well-
Let's open this up to the public. Would anyone from the public like to speak about this public hearing? I had signed up from, I can't quite read it, but
I believe someone raised their hand?
Lauren L. from HP Condos. I think that might be another hearing or something else you want to speak about? Okay. And then I also have a sign up from Mr. O'Gorman. So, okay. So would anyone like to speak about this particular application while we're in public hearing mode? There being none, we get a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to take a moment to revise. Yes. Yes.
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't need a speaker, I usually speak strongly.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. So do we need to revise, to reopen?
Well, yes.
He
let's
had
take a
raised his
motion to
hand
reopen the
before.
public hearing.
Can I get a motion to reopen?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Come on up and state your name for the record, please, even though we recognize you. We haven't seen you in a long time.
Have him come up and have a seat
Come
and
on
speak
up.
in the microphone.
My name is Kenneth Marr, I live on 138 Roosevelt Road. I have two questions. One is it possible to get a copy of that plan that they have? Because that's adjoining my property.
I believe there's a set in the back, right?
So-
You
For
can
review?
pay to have a copy made.
Under the Freedom of Information Law,
You're gonna have to speak louder, ma'am.
yes, you may obtain a copy, but you'll have to pay.
Where do I
the-
get that copy of it?
You may request it from the planning board, but you'll have to pay for the cost of copying.
I have
But
to
we-
make an application for it?
Yes, you'll fill out a form.
And what form is that?
It's called the Freedom of Information Law,
And who do I get that from?
Town clerk,
the clerk's office.
town clerk.
Okay.
But isn't there a copy in the back that he can look at tonight?
He can look at it, but he cannot take it.
Right. If you wanted to just review the map, there's a copy in the back to be looked at.
Okay. The second question I have is, you're giving a site plan here.
No, not a site plan,
I mean,
subdivision.
a boundary, but I want to know the reason why this is being changed.
We don't have to ask that question.
You're
In
going to
other
have to
words,
speak up, Mike.
We don't ask that question because it's not a the purpose of the transfer would not be relevant to the action proposed for what the planning board does. We're just looking at the lot lines changing to assist this transaction. The owners may be able to say why they're buying it, but not us.
So what is the reason for them applying for
We-
a new
Can-
lines?
Because
would
he's
s-
purchasing 45 acres.
Right, I would just say that one owner has decided to convey part of his land to the other owner, so they're going to adjust the lot line. That's
They're going to
basically
do
it.
what to the lot?
All they're doing is conveying, they're basically selling part of their land over and realigning the lot so that the one has more land on their lot than they did before.
At this
They're gonna-
point, no development is proposed.
Pardon?
The applicants have stated that no development is proposed.
I can certainly share something with you.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I'm probably your neighbor. My name is John SABIA.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. We've owned that property, the 83-acre parcel, and it's been in the family since 1971. So we've had that property for over 50 years. Built a house there 22 years ago, raised my lovely family, really had great memories from the property. And, I'm kind of in that pre-retirement range, so I was thinking about moving and downsizing. My neighbor called me up, Mr. Schwartz, and says, geez, I'd be interested in buying some of your property. Easy decision for me, because Mr. Schwartz is certainly, if you ever saw his property, he's on one of the most beautiful parcels in Hyde Park. He was very interested in extending his property line to keep the woods intact. He has a love of the forest. It was a no-brainer for me, because I never had any intent in developing that property. For 50 years, I've kept that property intact. We don't see any intent, of Mr. Schwartz to change that. So that is gonna remain open space, it's gonna be lovely woods and forest that's gonna be preserved. So it was an easy decision for me to make when he asked me to sell the property.
So they're not going to develop it?
No, he has no intent to develop it.
Okay. That's what it makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's
Good to see you again.
Mr. Morrow. Would anyone else like to speak about this application? Let me make sure I look at raised hands this time. Okay, now may I get another motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Were you able to read and make a new condition there to revise it?
Not really.
Here. I tell you what, why don't I just
You
set it in the motion? Resolution to approve a lot line alteration, April 4th, 2018, Resolution 2018-08A. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved, that the planning board hereby accepts the sketch plan in accordance with the provisions of section 96-12C of the code. Be it further resolved, the planning board hereby waives the following submission requirements: 96-18A2, 96-18A9, 96-18B, 96-18B1, 96-18B3, and 96-18C. Be it further resolved, the planning board hereby approves the subdivision plat and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to affix his or her signature to the subdivision plat after compliance by the applicant with the following condition. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, revision of the plat to include a bulk table with zoning information. 3, a note be added to the map stating that all density for the acreage to be added to the, quote, Schwartz parcel conveys with the sale. 4, revision of the plat to show the proposed location of the relocated path. 5, revision of the plat to include the signature block for subdivision approval and to remove the site plan signature block.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries, passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you. The next item on the agenda, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're now in workshop, so I know some people signed up to ask questions possibly, but you'll have to wait until we are back in public hearing mode. When we workshop, there's no public hearing authorized yet. This is for Hyde Park Town Center North. For those in the audience and at home, more familiarly, this would be known as the former Amish Market Plaza, or where you see new construction going on right now for the Mavis Tire. This is located at 4272 Albany Post Road, as well as 4276 Albany Post Road. Ms. Leibold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kelly Leibold with KRC.
Jeff DeGraw with DeGraw and DeHaan Architects.
Yeah, Alexander, Cuddy and Fader.
And for background purposes for the audience, the applicants are here. They've already or have raised and are renovating the former Malloy Pharmacy. It had a lot of other uses. This will be the new Mavis. The applicants are before us because in the interim, they acquired the front parcel and lot that has right now Verizon Wireless and Sideburns Haircutters. They're here to discuss recladding 3 of the buildings. The other 2 are located in the rear. And that's been what the discussion is centered on thus far. And we actually have the architect, Mr. DeGraw, here tonight, who in late-breaking news, Tennessee, even newer elevations on Monday, so thank you. Ms. Leibel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You correctly summarized the project. If everyone recalls at the last meeting, we did do a fairly significant presentation of the project, which, as you said, is somewhat de minimis. It's more of a recladding of the building. But it also includes some of the improvements to the north end of the parking lot and some additional landscaping. So based on the comments that we received at the last meeting, we did make changes to the site plan. I did provide a cover letter that documents much of the written comments that we received from the consultants. In addition, we also met to talk about some of the modifications to the architecture, mostly of Building 3 and 4. So Building 5 is Emergency 1. Building 3 and 4, 3 is the one that currently contains Feeds Plus, and 4 is the one that is vacant adjacent to Pine Woods Road. I initially provided you with elevations of Buildings 3 and 4, and we realized that there were some additional changes that we thought were more appropriate to tie those two buildings into Building 5. So to take a little bit of the farm look off, take off some of the cupolas, and get more of, I don't know how, you're going to do better at this than I am, but more of a modern but old look. So I do have those elevations tonight, and we're fortunate enough to have Jeff here, so he could go over those with you if you'd like. Just a few other issues just to kind of check the box. We have submitted to the Department of Health. The Emergency 1 building does require an amended septic system, a modified septic system, so there was one there, but the volume of water is greater, wastewater is greater than what was being discharged with the existing uses. So Joe Berger of Berger Engineering did submit to the Department of Health. He also has requested from the Department of Health that they consider the septic system for buildings 3 and 4 to be acceptable because the volume of water is de minimis versus what was the existing use. There is a comment here from the Department of Health indicating that the sewage line, the septic line that leaves the old Amish market building be severed and cut so that septic system isn't continued to be used. And that was on the original site plan approval. There's a note on there, so that will in fact happen, and I just noted that so you knew that there wasn't any change to that proposed severing of that line. There is I think a referral went over to the Department of Transportation. They did call me to talk about the project. I explained to them that there's no change to the permit that was issued for the entrance. We're not making any other changes to that entrance. We do note, and I think you're aware of this, that there were some trees that had to be removed because they were in the way of the installation of some of the underground utilities, and that was recorded and addressed with TAD. And we have noted on this plan the replacement of those trees up in that area on Route 9. I'm happy to go through those elevations if you'd like. We're hoping that everyone is pleased with the state of the application tonight, and that maybe we can proceed with sending this over to county planning so they can review the project.
And we're prepared to do that. I just want to note the septic changes for Building 5, I believe, are located in through here.
Correct.
That's where I saw them.
Correct. Just north of the building, there's an existing parking lot.
And so there'll be additional, I suppose, the
Seepage pits.
seepage pits?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Also, before we go on to the elevations, there were a couple of things I noted. On one of the plan sets, there's I think something in through here that says overhead utility line to remain if so the utility desires. And we don't allow overhead utilities when there's redevelopment. They all have to be buried. So that line will have to be changed, and I'm not sure what's intended there by the light or by the overhead aspects of it. And another notice, this was something that Ms. Axelson caught, our planning consultant who's not here tonight. Our code under, let's see what it is, 108-4.5 C1, C3. Any business district wherever a driveway or alley crosses a walkway, special paving accents or textures should be provided to delineate the walkway. I think on a couple you're proposing here just paint. And I think on the original, for Mavis, we had paving textures. I just want to make sure they stay consistent,
Okay.
that's all. Otherwise, let's get to the elevations, because that's what's been driving a lot of this so
Okay,
far.
I'll address the electric issue real
Yeah.
quick, because I'm actually familiar with that. Central
Thank
Hudson
you.
came out, and they wanted to service the Mavis building from a pole that's on the south side of the old Amish market. we wanted them to service it from a new line from Route 9, so that was the discrepancy. If the line needs to be underground, then it'll be underground, but unfortunately, they want to service it from that particular pole.
The utility companies not
Yeah.
liking what would look better in every way and
So-
violating
so
our
that's-
code.
so we'll-
Okay.
Easier to
have to-
maintain.
Yeah.
That changed.
Okay, thank you.
And it, it doesn't make a lot of sense because the utility room's on the west side of the building, but nonetheless.
You haven't improved the roadway there yet, have you? That's what I thought, so there's still time to get, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, sorry. And thank you for answering that, I'm glad you're familiar with it.
Do you want to go over the elevations?
Sure.
Not to throw you under the bus,
Let's
but they're your drawings.
It should be all set up.
Oh, yeah, it is, okay. It's like the two buttons.
Okay, so where do we start? So,
Wherever you'd like.
well, I think we'll start with number 5, which is the building closest to the road. And I think there really are no changes on this. I think you've seen this before. And I think what we're discussing about the building is very clean forms, simple shapes, a very slight articulation of the form. We're trying to incorporate the stone in. We're trying to find a stone that is appropriate for the area. And also tie it into Mavis and the surrounding buildings, with the board and batten on here. So again, simple shapes, forms that I think are familiar to the area, and hopefully it's something that we all find appealing. So that's building 5. So we've had quite a few changes on buildings 3 and 4, and we took us some time to try and figure out where the right style and the right language was on these. We were in a bit more of a country barn aesthetic. Perhaps not quite the right thing here. So, in talking with people and in trying to understand Hyde Park a little bit, understanding some of the Dutch influence in the area, we tried to look at some of those forms and maybe take a little more modern interpretation to it, and also to get some of the proper materials in. So, going to building number 3, which is the feed and grain building, we propose a series of parapeted gables, not unlike you would see at Marist College, where the parapet comes up in front of the peaked form behind it. So again, this shape is a very kind of classic Dutch Revival sort of shape, so we thought that would be rather fun to put that into the building and also somewhat identifiable as opposed to all the other main gables that are in there. And again, we try to get a much more clean, modern look to the feel, and at the same time respect the history. So hopefully we've done that with large amounts of glazing, the great simple shapes. We think the colors are going to be great, with the contrast with the stone. So that really sort of explains building 3. And again, I think it ties into the other buildings in that we're keeping simple roof lines, punctuated by a gable. And there is some articulation into this building as well, in that we're trying to keep, with many buildings they're getting long in length, getting that articulation, albeit very small.
It can be small.
It is small, because the stone does project out 6 inches from the rest of the siding. So this will actually be not a thin veneer stone. We will use real, 5-6 inch veneer stone on this. Another thing to note too, in a lot of current retail design, very much of a movement away from having covered walkways, in that they detract from the visibility of the storefronts. So again, we have awnings, we have kind of a pergola form over this door, but again, trying to keep the displays very much in view. So that brings us back to building 4, which really you can see is following the same language. It's really essentially the same shapes, but doing this one with a straightforward gable. And what we've done on this building, again, these two pop out, the gables pop out 6 inches, same shape, so that really ties it together, so I think we get a good coherency between the buildings. And what we've done too is, it's sort of interesting in the way that the forms work. The last store has an entranceway on the gable end on the side. So what we did is we created a building that has essentially the same proportions here by pulling this gable in, and then we downplayed this portion by changing it to a darker color. So I think it's going to be very successful, and I think it's going to give, although they're very similar, I think they'll all have their own identities, which is what we're looking for. And I think it's starting to make a cohesive whole to the whole project. And there you have it.
I'll just weigh in when Ms. Leipold emailed these to me. For the purpose of the audience, you probably can't see this, but being a former Texan, when I first looked at it, I thought, it looks like the Alamo. Because you do see curvilinear parapeted gables in Spanish mission style architecture. But then Ms. Weiser and I were going down our favorite rabbit hole of looking through architectural images and discovered that this is actually, it was Dutch colonial revival. It was used in Gothic revival. It's used in Queen Anne. It's one of those that kind of keeps going in several different time periods. And again, for me only, but I was able to immediately then take a look at all three buildings in context. And what I like is that while each has its own identity, they're not all exactly the same. There are design elements that repeat and echo throughout the three. So when you said there's a more cohesive unity to the site now, I would agree with you. And I can tell that on the last building, which you're required to articulate, you now have some articulation. Just basically there's a little bit of shadow here and there, and you've achieved, I mean, I was prepared to say you could also just ask for a waiver if you needed to, because getting into the sidewalk along the front, but this looks great, I think.
Thank you.
I also like the way that you've used, so the purpose of the articulation is to make sure that for buildings that are wider than 100 feet, 100 linear feet, it appears as though it's a series of buildings. This looks like it's a series of buildings, one that runs long and faces to the south, and one that's sort of appearing this way. So I congratulate you for pulling a sow's, what is it, making a silk purse out of a sow's ear along there.
I wish I had the picture of the building to put next to this one, because it's pretty rough.
We here are familiar with it. Let me start with our consultants, and then we may have questions from the board directly for you. Mr. Sotero, any comments?
Sure. One of my questions was on the septic system that's now in the parking lot, right adjacent to the new emergency one. But Kelly had answered that based upon some comments they got from the county health department. The other thing was we took a detailed look at the lighting plans, and the lighting plans show quite a few building mounted lights behind building number 5, facing the Mavis building, and then also building number 4 up by Pine Woods Road. And it seems that it may be a little overkill. So Kelly, if that's something you could just look at with the lighting peak, because it just looks like it's a little bit overkill. And then we've got some other comments about like shielding and making sure that Joe's plans correspond with, the other plans that are provided by Salux. So after tonight's meeting, we'll get that out. Michael had mentioned already about Liz's comments on the crosswalks, so that's in here. And then there's just a couple things, to clarify some things to make sure that everything that was on the first set of approved plans for the Mavis is properly transferred, to this set. So it's just mainly, housekeeping. And while I'm at it, I guess, Kelly, we might as well talk about the trees that got taken down on the east side of the Mavis, because that kind of got flagged pretty
I
quickly
just
as
went
a,
by to see it.
oopsie.
Yeah.
And I went by there. I hadn't even seen it. And I went by there tonight, and I was like, well, there's really no more trees. I mean, not that they were great trees, but still, it's.
I think what I would propose to do.
So do you know what happened there? Or?
I don't. I saw it. I just saw it. So I think what I would propose to do is just set up a meeting with you and Tad out at the site, and then we'll come up with a plan. But it's a cease and desist at the moment.
Okay.
So we have to decide. That portion of the property is on 1625 Boardwalk, not on this property. So it's part of the SWIP for the other action, not Hyde Park Town Center.
Right. I know that's what.
It's the other
Was it
piece.
cease and desist issue?
Well,
The-
by email.
Okay.
Yes, so I read it loud and clear.
With exclamation points, too.
Yes.
So.
So we've stopped. Joe has indicated that they need to stabilize it immediately, and then we'll go up and meet and come up with a plan.
They're not planning on taking down that rock, are they?
I think that was the plan, and it's stopped now, so they're not, they're not, I know, yeah.
Because I think I think the rock, didn't, I'll have to go back and look, but didn't, you know, the
Did
rock have something to do with the
FDR sit
noise
on it?
study, or no?
The rock
That's the
was,
last thing that I need.
the rock was considered to be a natural sound barrier
Right.
to attenuate impacts, sound impacts.
Yeah, I think the best
That's
thing is
what
to
it was.
just sit, if we, and I'll
Yeah.
meet with you and
Doors
Tad if we
facing
I
can,
just,
and then we'll come up.
just wanted to bring it up, because I think
Yes.
that was discussed a little bit at
Yes.
our
Do you wanna-
agenda meeting.
Do you want to point out exactly where the trees were removed on the site plan? Or near the,
So this is the property line. This is the Amish market. This is Mavis. Sorry, I broke my finger. This is the park. So all of the trees were on the
Right.
south side of Mavis, or the south side of the Amish market and the east side of Mavis. Mhm. So this is the area, and it just looks like over time, I don't know if everyone remembers the old McDonald's. I know you're going to shudder when you think about that, but do you remember there was a parking lot in the back? And it seems like people just still think they can park back there. So even though it was cleared and it's supposed to be grass and there's a swale there for stormwater, people just seem to think that they can park back there. So that's one of the issues that Tad had
for the
raised.
swale,
And
because
then
there's a storm swale
there's
right
a
in
swale
through-
here,
right.
yeah. So I think the best thing is to go out and come up with a plan to,
Particularly since it's not on, the site is not subject to this review at
Correct.
this point.
Right.
correct, yeah,
So, thank you.
But
But
it's
thanks
all-
for bringing it up.
It's all
They're
kind
all
of
connected.
tied together.
tied in together
Yes.
somehow, some way.
correct.
So
Anything else,
that was
Mr.
it.
Sotero?
That was it for us.
Anything else tonight? On this application? Anything else?
Me? Oh, no.
Okay. Ms. Polidoro?
At the offline meeting, there was some discussion about adding a note to the plan, which would require the awning on the Amish market just to be painted. And I don't know if that made it on. I didn't see it when I looked.
It was requested, I think, that that be painted or removed, but it wasn't asked to be a note on the plan.
Okay, well, so we would need to incorporate that somehow into the approval, just to make sure it gets done.
Okay, I'm not sure if they're agreeing to it, but I will bring it up and go over it with them.
Well, I think painting would be fine. You can ask the board, but.
Whatever's easiest.
Yes,
I
microphone.
mean, we just feel like it's putting lipstick on a pig, but we will, I'll
It's-
go
it's-
over it with them.
It's pretty much a pig, I'll agree with
Mm-hmm.
that.
But if it's there for a while.
Yeah, so let me then start to my left. Ms. Weiser?
Hello. So, I truly appreciate the concerted effort and diligence with which you are pursuing this project. I applaud your decision to vary the looks of buildings 3 and 4 while maintaining visual cohesion between them. While different, they do seem to have sort of nod to one another. I really like that they are different but similar. They're sort of like fraternal triplets, twins. They belong to the same family. I like the new articulation of Building 4, and I believe you've accomplished the separation necessary for a structure of that length. I love the parapeted gables on Building 3. I found the shapes in both Queen Anne and Gothic Revival, so I think this is a really good step toward providing the village feel that we're hoping to achieve here. Such a nice detail. I don't know what the inspiration was for the 5 holes in the center of each gable, but I think they are a simple and pleasing decorative addition, so thank you.
Yeah, at first when I glanced online, I thought it was a quatrefoil, but you had heard us talking about other things. Then when I looked closer, I realized that it's not. It's 5 holes, but
I couldn't find it anywhere.
it's a nice detail to me.
Nice.
You're simply amazing. You really are.
Yeah, it looks great. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Mr. Murphy?
Two things. Number one, you're aware that the curb cut right next to Pine Woods Road that you installed is not per the plans that we approved. You've got an opening right behind that other little strip mall that's in the front, and that was closed. And when you put your curbs in,
Are you talking about right here?
right there.
So it hasn't been closed yet? Is that what you're,
I'm saying that they put new curbing in incorrectly. I'll go beyond
Okay.
the fact that it hasn't been closed. They opened it up and left it open, and it wasn't according to the plan.
I haven't been over there.
okay, does it, I'm not arguing with you, but does it look like it's temporary and they're gonna
No,
fix?
no.
Okay, all right, so I'll go look at it.
Looks like either a screw up or something.
Someone really I think I need to be up there every day.
Well,
Okay,
you know,
okay.
it creates a big traffic problem.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh
And
at that, but I will
I
look
don't
at it.
want it there, and I don't think.
Okay,
You know,
We had
I'll look at
long
it.
discussions about.
yes, we
Yes,
did.
correct,
and-
yep.
And we all got on the same page.
And is the new cut in the wrong
It's a
location?
brand-new cut.
And it's in the wrong location?
It's in, well, the other one's there too, the one that we
So
approved.
Said to close,
this
yeah.
is
Approved,
here.
that's there.
This
It's
is
just-
still open, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
that probably can't be closed yet, but,
Who says it can't be?
well, not until, you know, the right one gets put in where it's supposed
The
to.
right one is put in where it's supposed to.
There's an extra, now there's two copies.
Oh,
In
there's
other
an
words,
extra one.
this
you're
one is
saying.
installed, this one is
Huh,
still open
I was just there
as well.
tonight, but honestly, I didn't even notice that. I'll have to look at
Okay,
it.
I'll go look too when I'm done. Okay.
Okay, now, second item. I'm a customer at the barber shop, and as it's in the front now, and I'm pretty aware that parking is gonna be.
Tight.
Is there a way we can do any parking behind Building 4? There's a little space back there.
There's underground utilities there that are evident of a septic field, and I'm not sure if we can put something, it's on
Yeah, no, I
the-
mean, I just was hoping we could add parking where we could, because the barber shop's gonna generate some parking.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And anything that we could do to revise and get more parking out of there.
Looks like they're trying to do it next to Building 2, but that's not gonna work.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say, the other thing to remember is this whole site is shared parking. All of it is shared parking, so the
Is the
barber
other,
can park-
is that, the parking lot across from the entrance road is not part of the shared parking? That's part of the other,
Do you mean down here?
no, I mean right behind the strip mall. Right,
Right.
go right in the entrance where we were talking about,
That's
right,
not-
that's.
No, it's not part of the
That's
shared
not part
parking.
of it.
Well,
So that parking is, that lot, that's the lot line, is owned by Alex
I know,
Sorokas,
that's what I
and
mean,
of
and
course-
we can't count that as,
No,
We haven't counted that. Chan, you have 42 spaces over here, just so you know.
okay, well, I figured,
Just counted them up.
I was talking to Joe at the barber shop, and we figured 21.
We have
Well,
25 right
he would,
here on the plan.
he would be about 21 on
okay.
a busy day.
Where do people park now?
I think they parked some of them behind the credit union, and they were parking up the alleyway where Mavis was, and now you've got construction workers there, so I don't know what their current thing is.
I mean, so again, for the students who are here, we're talking about sites that were developed long before any of you were born. I was alive, but not, you guys weren't. However, there are a series of parking areas that, back in the day, we didn't have cross-access easements. What usually happened was the owner of one lot said, "Oh yeah, you can park, let's shake hands." So we have what's been developing over the years is people who park to use any one of three sites. One where there's a Mexican food restaurant, a nail salon, et cetera. One where there's a credit union, and then the rest of this site. People kind of park wherever they want, and no one's ever said anything. So what we've been doing in this case is treating it as though people could park in other areas, but we're not looking at those because it's an informal rather than an existing easement agreement. So people have, yes, as Mr. Murphy says, people park anywhere they want to and walk around the lot.
They
That's-
do,
That's how
and I
it's been
think
all
they'll end
along.
up parking on
They'll end up
Alex's
doing
lot.
it anyway,
Yeah.
but I
Yep.
just, I just thought.
I wish we could add
As
more.
many
Yeah.
parking spots as we can squeeze out
I
of
would
there, I'd
agree.
like to.
Yeah, I would agree, if we could get more. I'm not sure, we did reconfigure that parking lot. I don't know if you recall, but that parking
Yes.
lot used to be parallel to the entrance drive, and Tad
They've
gave her
added-
credit for that,
They've added
brought it up
the green hinter
to.
here so that they can have the parking align with the
Yeah, and we actually, I think we gained
orientation
one
of
or
the
two
building.
spots by doing that, and then we added more landscaping.
Anything else? You're going to take a look at the curb location and
Yes,
find out
yep,
what's going on?
yep.
Mr. Pickett?
Really like the redesign of 3 and 4. I think it looks great. The only other question is the trees that were cut down,
Yes.
did they have that much effect on the original sound study, or?
No, they really didn't.
was the-
They were on Route 9, and they were locust trees that were there, so I don't think that they had much of an effect on it.
Okay.
It
They
was-
were
it's-
deciduous
If you
trees.
recall, it's the rock that was here as well as the presence of the building and the rock. There's a ridge line that goes back
Oh,
here.
those trees.
We had them
Okay,
look at a
sorry.
receptor over here because it's a daycare center. So, but there was a series of sound attenuators that were occurring, including, like I said, the building and the fact that it's not just the rock outcrop here, but one that goes beyond there.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dexter?
I'd like to thank my colleagues and the architect here. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Jeff. Okay. For pursuing a level of I don't know, perfection to say. I was happy with the cupolas. I was happy the first round. You know, this was a kind of an agricultural community back in the day, so I didn't think we were that far off. But I really like what you've done. So thank you. And thank you to my colleagues for hanging in there and pulling for something you really liked. My only thing is, I do have a hard time seeing it in context with everything. Everything standalone looks great. As I drive by and I see the Mavis taking shape, I'm like, I think it'll go very nicely. But it is somewhat difficult for me to just tell in context, especially with the big Amish market right there. There's going to be something so nice, and then something that's so not nice. Hopefully that will spur development of that last piece. So those are just my ramblings. But I am concerned that what I'm hearing tonight is that some of the things that have been agreed to are not happening. So I would appreciate it if you were on site and making sure these actions are in line with what was approved. And it sounds like some people are going rogue. So go rein them in, please.
Very well.
We worked really hard on all of this. We brought in a special traffic guy just especially for all these entrances and stuff, and to hear that for some reason it was just not done does disturb me, and so I would appreciate it if you could just look out for us.
I will go and look at it. I'll touch base with Pete. At the end of the job, Tad is unbelievably diligent, as you know, in making sure. I was out in the rain doing McDonald's counting plants.
Yep, I
Oh,
was
In
there.
the pouring rain
of course.
that day. So,
Of course.
I mean, she makes sure that everything that's on the
Right.
plan is built. So even if there's a mistake now, whether it was intended or not, it will
Right,
get
but it
identified.
also
We wanna
saves you
get it
money
now. Yeah,
if
we
it's
wanna get it
done
now.
correctly the
I
first
agree.
time, so
I agree.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dexter. Mr. Oliver?
I'm going to echo my colleagues as well. You know, thank you for taking the time, you know, listening really to what we wanted and taking the time to kind of study our past here in Hyde Park and representing that in your plans. And just overall, I'm really excited to see this development take place in the center of our town, and I think it's going to bring a lot of really good things. So thank you guys for making all the efforts you have. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. DiNapoli?
Yes, it was a pleasure meeting you at that meeting, and it's always nice to see the two of you. Few questions.
Having said
The
that,
rest of us, I think we should just leave now. It's not even gonna come in.
having said that,
I didn't want to use it as jump in, but.
I didn't want you to think that I was just talking about Jeff. It was the two of you, too.
Okay.
On, the one thing, I was very surprised, and it does make life a lot easier seeing the latest renditions in this size as opposed to the small size, because that's extremely distorting, at least to me. So this does help tremendously, and I appreciate you making up the copies. I guess the one thing I was a little surprised at, am I missing? I had hoped maybe for some wood to be included, and I'm not talking about the siding being hardy board, but I know when we were down at the Wallace Center, we had mentioned incorporating some of the wood texture. Did that just not fit with your thinking?
I don't think it really,
Could you please use the microphone? I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. No, honestly, I didn't really think the wood sort of made sense with the architecture that was coming together here at this point. So it wasn't that I was opposed to wood or anything. It was more as we put it together.
It just didn't.
It didn't really feel like it kind of, and in fact, at one point, the little pergolas over the doors, we had considered doing wood.
Yes.
But it felt like it almost made it more of a rustic, a kind of Adirondack feel, which
And that's
we did not want.
no,
So that was really,
yeah.
we definitely considered it, but we moved away from it.
Okay, it was more of trying to understand. And is the color of the stone in 3 and 4 the same color in number 5?
I believe it should be,
Okay,
yeah.
We'll give you a materials for it, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
But that would be our intent.
And on building number 4, in the middle, while it looks white, is it white as opposed to the stone?
No, it's actually, I think that might be part of the printing process. We don't want pure white on it. We had it backed off to be just kind of a very, very light gray, so almost the mortar color of the stone, so that we pull it together.
Okay, because I was trying to, and I also want to echo Ms. Dexter's comment that it, and I know this was all last minute, and I appreciate you getting it to us, but it does help to see everything in context with the whole with the whole site. Because she's absolutely right. It makes it so much easier to see how everything plays together. And I 100% agree that by either removing the awning or painting that awning on the Grand Union building is purely lipstick on a pig. But those are the complaints I hear from the residents of Hyde Park. They feel, I mean, they will stop me in the supermarket to say it is such a disgrace to have that. That's where this is coming from. So, and hopefully the Knicks would understand that, and being good neighbors, you know, paint shouldn't really, no one's asking them to redesign. We're just saying, can you just, whatever's easier,
Okay.
you know.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, let me conclude then with my comments on the first page of the Michael Boyce collaboration submission. It states, remove existing brick pavers and benches. This would be in front of the emergency 1 building, as we're calling it. But it doesn't say what you're going to replace them with. So if you're removing the brick pavers, I assume that means it's all going to be concrete or sidewalk. And if you're removing the benches, because the landscaping is changing in through this area, then I think you should try to create, because I know we have a nice central seating area here now, where the stone walls and the gardens and the municipal clock are going to go. But you could consider adding a bench or something right in through here, some other area of seating for people along the way. In addition, at the last meeting, I asked for some landscaping around here, back on this side of the new soon to be reclad building 4, maybe a tree, some bushes, something. And I think that since this is now going to become an entrance for the barber shop, I know that there's a septic that exists along here, and you create a path, but some sort of additional plantings, whether they're low level, the grasses that Mr. Boyce likes to use, whatever. But that area should be dressed up a little bit more too, and I think that will kind of be the icing on the cake. I would urge you to talk to the owners of the site. I know that it's not going to be cheap to paint the awning. It may even be less expensive, but that lipstick might actually improve the appearance of that pig, because it's looking really bad right now with the coming off. Then of other points, it looks as though you're saying that the Americans with Disability space, parking space right here, ADA space, would be here. You should check with the building department, because I believe that the requirement is that ADA spaces must be located as close to the main entry as possible, and your entrance is over here to the building, so I think you're going to have to cite that in another location. I'm not positive. It's just something that it popped out at me, because I thought that this was the ADA compliant space for Mavis, and maybe that it's trying to serve both buildings, but all I see is the one here. There's nothing that's close to the entrance for Building 5. I believe that I think it was Mr. Sotero said that we need to make sure that the notes from the last approval are carried over on this one. And then Tad wanted you to see her, but I've forgotten why. It just says see zoning.
Oh, boy. I feel like I'm going to the principal. Okay.
This was before she discovered the trees had been removed, or had we discovered it that day? Yeah, so I'm not sure what that was about. I forgot to write it down. Yeah, CTAD.
Okay. We did update the signs, so everyone knows the monument signs were reviewed and approved by TAD. So
Hey.
yeah. So they're correct on the
Every
plan.
sign is now code compliant.
Yes.
So the signs on the new plans are correct?
Correct. Those are the ones that we got, like, the day before we went to print. She approved everything, so they're the ones that are correct, the monument signs.
So what I heard for the most part tonight, I'm sure what you've recorded, is that the majority of the board is delighted with the new architecture. And I like that you kept as much glazing as you did, because that's something that I think that we should encourage in retail, is to have more windows, to allow more light and for you to see more of the product, no matter what, well, in most cases, no matter what the product is. But this, just so everyone in the audience understands as well, architecture, when you're having an existing site that's going to be renovated and redeveloped, it's one of the board's most important considerations is architecture, because that's what's going to last the longest. It's going to last 50, 75, 100 years, so we hope. And to have you pay as much attention as you did and come up with such a thoughtful approach, I think is really special. Again, I want to say what I said earlier. I like the fact that each one is different, but there is a thematic coherence to all of them now. And they're not fancy buildings, so you're right, you kept them kind of simple. They don't look boxy anymore, because you've articulated everything to make that sort of completely go away. So we're prepared to take action tonight to refer this to county. We've already referred for secret purposes the other agencies. I think we can also, if you guys are ready, consider setting a public hearing in a month time.
Very good.
Because we're through the major hurdle of architecture. The rest is little tiny details of landscaping, et cetera, sidewalk details. So who has this file?
I do.
Thank you, Diane. Yes.
You already.
Do we set a public hearing?
On seeker.
We did, so we've already done that, but
Yeah.
we weren't ready for county because we had an incomplete package.
I misheard that.
So, sorry, we're just circulating for county tonight. We've already heard back from all the agencies that we are, I think, required to.
Yeah, you're February 21st, you circulated.
No,
Yeah.
he's saying, did they hear back from?
We heard from Department of Health, but we did not hear back from DOT, but we don't have to, in other words, now.
Yeah.
The 30-minute,
You're more than 30 days.
that's what I thought. We've had three
She's gonna,
responses.
I talked to her today, the
Yeah.
woman from DOT, so
Fine.
they're gonna send something.
So
in.
go ahead and read the resolution.
Resolution referring application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, Hyde Park Town Center North Buildings 3, 4, and 5, April 4th, 2018, resolution number 16-15E. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby directs its secretary to refer the application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to section 239-M of the General Municipal Law.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Do you want us to set the public hearing for the May 2nd meeting?
That would be great.
Making a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Just so you know, we're going in front of the ZBA for initial appearance on April 25th.
And board, I sent a copy of your lengthy application and narrative. What they're going for, the variance for, is again, because this is the actual site overall is adjacent to one in the National Historic Registry. Our code requires that the cubic volume be 60,000 cubic feet or less. By requiring the non-flat roof, it goes above, slightly above the 60,000. Would you like me to draft a letter recommending it? And the reason why I say that is because we have sort of a similar situation as Mavis. Even though the code, the way it's written, I believe contemplates that there'd be a building adjacent to the historic site. In this one, we have intervening buildings. We have what is now about, the top is a residential unit, the bottom is commercial. It's an old Staples, then you have McDonald's. So you have intervening parcels. And in addition, I believe the intent of this was so that you wouldn't have some huge monstrosity next to a small historic site, but in this case, the buildings are fairly small in scale. They just happen to have an interior volume that's fairly high. So would we like to write a letter? Yes. Make a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll have that letter out to the ZBA within a week. You're
Very
welcome.
good. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
We'll just get the copies to Cynthia for the.
And Mr.
county
DeGraw, I
planning.
will be in touch now that we're in sort of better weather. I mean, it was Dorothy Gale in Kansas earlier today, trying to get into that root cellar, but I'll try to set up a meeting to go to see Warwick Grove now that it's better weather for us all. Because let's hope and pray there are no more nor'easters with wet snow dumps like this.
That would be great.
Again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
I worked on.
Okay, I can't remember. The next item on the agenda
3 a.m.
is the Locust Rural Event Venue. The applicants are seeking under our newest law, our second newest law, to utilize the large space to conduct weddings and other kinds of events. We did workshop this at the last meeting. What we're prepared to do tonight is just to go ahead and refer it to all the involved agencies, interested agencies. So we told the applicants they did not have to be here for this because it's just an administrative proceeding. Who has this file?
I do.
Thank you, Chris.
Resolution classifying the action, declaring the intent to serve as lead agency in coordinated review, and referring the action to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, the locus on the Hudson Rural Event Venue. Resolution number 2018-10, whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as a type 1 under SECRA, 2, declares its intent to serve as lead agency in a coordinated review of the project and directs its secretary to circulate notice of its intent to all other involved and interested agencies, and 3, directs its secretary to refer the application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Just for the record, to enter it in, the involved and interested agencies are Roosevelt Fire District, Staatsburg Fire District. Again, a note, Roosevelt Fire District is taking over or merging with Staatsburg Fire District. Town of Esopus Planning Board, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, New York State Department of Parks and Recreation, the Taconic Region, Scenic Hudson, Town of Hyde Park Fire Inspector, and the Town of Hyde Park Police Department. The next item on the agenda is Hyde Park Condominiums, the water and wastewater treatment facility. For those who've been watching us for a while, we originally approved a new wastewater treatment plant for this site. This is located at 4676 Albany Post Road, just north of here on the east side of Route 9. And during that time period, the HOA had a budget. The wastewater treatment facility that we had approved was way beyond the budget, as I understand it. So a different engineering firm was hired to come in. Ms. Moss and I met with them in a pre-application meeting, and went through some of the details. And you're here to present those details tonight.
Yes. I'm Fernando Dongo. I work for C3ND Environmental Consulting. Mills Engineering, who's the engineer for this project, is actually ill today. Bob Harvey, who was originally supposed to come.
Sorry to hear that.
So he won't be here. The new treatment process, which we're proposing, like Michael had said, is different type of design. What was originally proposed on the last Podgy engineering design. One of the main concerns is the treatment facility now is the infrastructure is made of cinder block, which is subsurface and very, obviously, not very structurally sound. So the current condition of the plan is really inhibiting the ability to go ahead and move forward with some of the digging around that area, which is, again, making us look at alternate options. The proposed wastewater treatment plant has been presented to the board. Pricing has been obtained and, presented to them as well. And as of today, actually, they've signed an agreement with escrow to move forward with the project if we shall be allowed.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
a big step. Anything else to add?
Nope.
One question we all had is, the new tanks, are they all above ground or are they partially buried?
All above.
And the height of those is
I believe it's 11 and a half to
11
12
and a half
feet.
feet? Thank you. Mr. Sotero, comments?
Yeah, we sent around some email comments Monday, and, we'll formalize them, but we just had a few. They call out an 8-foot chain link fence. I wasn't sure if that qualified as, as requiring a variance, but I think, Michael, you had said that if it's on the property line?
Yes, fence
so
heights are
maybe you
restricted
could
to 6
jump
feet
in.
if they're on property lines, but if they're interior, they can be higher because they're a structure under our
Okay.
code, believe
So
it or
we're
not.
good on the 8?
Yep.
Okay. And the fence color, I assume we want black?
It has to be black or earth tone into the code. I can find the section if you
So
want.
we'd like for
but you
that,
can trust
to
me.
be labeled on the, the plan. And then the second one was, the chairman already asked about, you know, the treatment tanks, that they're all gonna be above, you know, grade. So I forget what the building height was, but I think the tanks are even gonna be higher than the building, aren't they?
Yes.
So just be like aware, you're gonna see two tanks that are, I forget, like, how long they are. How long are they? Do you know?
I want to say they're over 20 feet.
They're what?
They're over 20 feet.
Thought they were even longer than that.
Yeah, I believe so. I'd have to look at the plans
Here,
for
I have
sure.
it. Well, while I'm looking for that, there are light poles that are proposed, you know, for security lighting, which, you know, they need. So they're either going to be 8-foot tall or 12-foot, 12-foot tall. So we should just see some details on the light poles and the fixtures that they're going to use. And then, you know, the cover letter had also said that these lights are going to be a combination of motion sensors and manual lights. If you could just have them put on the plan which ones are which. I think some are going to be manual, some are going to be motion, so we could just.
Yeah, that was something that was discussed today, that they just need with the electrician to.
And then, I'm sure the planning board's gonna wanna know what the building and the roof colors are gonna be. I don't know if we're gonna
Correct.
ask for like a cupola on this. I know we're cupola people. So, let me just take,
I like how you
take a
think.
look at the tanks. 1 inch equals 20 feet, so I don't have my scale with me, but I'm gonna say they're 1, 2, probably 40 feet long or so.
Yeah. Yep.
Probably 40 feet long. They're probably, I want to say 10 feet wide. So you're going to see like 20. So both of these tanks are going to be side by side.
Yeah, from the Route 9 side, they'll be about 20 feet wide.
Yeah,
like
so
you
you're going to
said.
see basically 20 feet by
11 and a
40
half.
feet, 45 feet.
And how tall did you say they were?
Black.
11 and a half.
So,
I mean, I need to point out, in case we haven't looked at our plans, all of us, that there is screening proposed as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not trying to say that's a major issue. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that
no.
everybody
Thank you.
If these could be
understands
relocated.
what, you know,
Yeah,
we're getting.
if it were possible to inexpensively relocate these to another portion of the site so it's not visible from Route 9, we would require that, but that would be a huge undertaking because of where all the septic lines already exist.
Yes.
In addition, this same system services the building across the street.
Yes.
So we have to be, no, not the laboratory, but the
Ledges.
The Royal Crest across.
Royal Crest, that's apartments, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this site is serving multiple multifamily areas, and it's been in decline, as we know.
Oh,
They
yeah, I
were-
mean, it needs to be replaced,
Yeah, I
it's
mean-
terrible, and it can't go anywhere else because all of the lines come right to that point, so it, you know, it has to be there, it's just,
So what they proposed is Colorado blue spruces at our suggestion, because those are slow growers, they don't lose their lower limbs, so the degree of screening will only increase over time. It'll become increasingly opaque. But that noted, during leaf-off seasons, like right now, you'll see some of the shape, et cetera. However, having lived here now 25 years as of this February, I go up and down that road all the time, and I look and I can see what's there now, but it's just sort of faint in the mist because the amount of trees around it, even during leaf-off, is pretty substantial. So it's more brambly and thickety, and through there, it's not as obtrusive as you might imagine. And again, I want to underscore that as residents ourselves, I think we want to make sure that we help a lot of people who live here right now in those units. We can't have them continually suffering from bad septic systems.
now,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just happened to see that they are proposing 9 Colorado blue spruces. 4 of them are shown up in the area where they're going to take down the existing treatment plant. So I don't know if you have your plans, but, you know, maybe those could be relocated down to where.
They're shown in the original location, and originally they were going to have the tank where the old one was, but they've discovered that because it's cinder block and crumbling, that trying to decommission it by putting the tanks there would not be a wise idea.
Right.
Yeah, I believe from the original plan, the ones north where you're speaking of are pulled back slightly to kind of screen it a little bit towards the entrance. kind of surround it a little bit better from Route 9.
So we should all take a look at the proposed landscaping and make sure that
Yeah.
it has a sufficient degree of opacity to
'Cause we
protect.
still have to schedule a hearing on this? and
Yes.
all that. So we're not
Yeah.
done yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
No, this is the
maybe we
first
could-
time for the board to see it.
Right, so maybe, we could go move around, like some of them, maybe add a couple, and
Yeah.
maybe that'll take care of it, but,
Thank you.
huh? Yeah, we're gonna.
They're shown right now in a line, they should be more zigzagged or
Yeah.
staggered, because that's gonna make them die anyway. But again, this was just for this first discussion.
Yeah, so
to
we'll
let them move
formalize
forward.
this, but
Yep.
that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
No comments.
We start to my right, Ms. DiNapoli, comments?
I guess I want to make sure that you're going to be adding additional screening besides the chain link. The view from tenants above, will they be seeing it, or do the trees kind of block their view?
There's a pretty dense wood line between the
Okay.
residents up on top of the hill there.
They're all deciduous trees, though, again, so the residents will see something.
See something?
Yeah,
My
And-
only comment, thank you.
thank you. Mr. Oliver?
If you could just add, like, the double row of screening, like they were talking about, offset rows, so it's zigzag.
Okay.
I think that'll help with the tree life and screening. Other than that, I want to do whatever I can to help the HOA over there to get the septic system they need.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Dexter?
Well, I'm sorry you had to come back, and, I thought this was all wrapped up, and
Yeah.
was very sorry to hear that that original plan was not going to work. So this does sound like it's going to be a plan that will go through, so I'm very happy about that. And I know we'll work out the landscaping and the screening, so.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Pickett?
My only concern was the landscaping and screening, like they've already talked about. When you go by it, right now, you don't see much because you're doing 60 going north.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're going south, you're looking off to the right.
You're
but I
speeding.
think-
Yeah.
It's 45 in through there,
Yeah, it's
Dave.
a 55.
Oh, that's
Is that what
55.
Right, Chad?
45, I think.
Oh,
Not
it's
yet.
45?
It's 45 in there, right
45.
there.
No, it's 55.
It is?
It is 55.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's 55. yeah.
Yeah.
That was my only concern, as long as,
Yep, same as the staggered you're saying, right?
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
My concern is, has it been looked into partially burying those tanks at all? Have we looked at it from a cost standpoint or a technical standpoint? What's
The biggest concern is, you can see on the plans, is there's utilities, water utilities that are going to be underneath and in close proximity. So it's going to be virtually impossible to bury it any further than what we'll be able
from a
to do.
technical standpoint? Now, the existing water utilities, they're there now?
Yes.
So,
Anything else? Thank you. Ms. Weiser?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is our first round of getting this, so at the next meeting, we can go ahead and circulate for,
But the board can consider reaffirming seeker. The board's already looked at the impacts of replacing a septic disposal system.
Same thing.
So long as this new plan doesn't result in any significant changes, the board can reaffirm its prior seeker determination, so we don't need to circulate.
then just a question for you, Fernando. What's involved with decommissioning the existing tank? I mean, I was a little bit sweating bullets when you described it as crumbling, and if you did any digging, it might collapse. That made me think of sewage flowing everywhere.
Yeah, decommissioning wise, I mean, once the new treatment plant is
Is
in
that what I mean?
process, yeah, we'll be able to, pump all the septic and sludge from the, treatment processes, and, they state in the plans whether, pea stone or stand and self, basically,
Mhm.
bury, the structures in the ground, so, obviously, like we said, we have to remove all the waste and stuff prior and then move forward from there.
A note to the students who are here in class, when most of us joined the board, we never thought we'd become as familiar with septic as what we've had to. I can assure you of that. It's one of those fun facts, or fun things, once you serve up here for a while, you discover you know in mind-numbing
Way too
detail
much.
all about the different kinds of septic systems that exist these days. But at any rate, so at the April,
When the new plans with landscaping are submitted, we will refer them to county planning.
I was going to say, we have to refer to county planning no matter what, under 239M. We could probably refer these as is now. It's up
Yeah.
to you, instead of having to make them do a new set of plans, just with
It's up to
offset
the board.
screening.
I mean, we're gonna rearrange the landscaping like a little bit, but, I mean,
I'm just
I
thinking
wouldn't
for the
have an
purposes
issue
of
sending them to
county,
county.
what they're looking at, to whether it rises to a county-level impact, I think we could go ahead and refer the plans we have now.
The board can do that by motion tonight.
You're going to let us do it by motion instead of by resolution?
If you so wish, you may.
Can I get a motion to refer this to county planning under 239M?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I like keeping a record of that, like you do, usually, Ms. Polidoro. So, we'll send this off. Do we have an additional set of plans right now? Ms. Whitman, do we have an extra set to send, or do we need the applicant to provide one? Okay. That's okay. So, I guess I could volunteer to let mine go. I will. So I'll just bring mine in tomorrow, and you can send that one over. And then we could contemplate setting a public hearing now for maybe the May 2nd meeting? Does that sound accurate to everyone? Okay, come on.
Yes?
Yes.
Get a motion to set the public hearing for May 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. We did hear from a number of neighbors at the last public hearing, primarily neighbors who live down Scenic Drive, so it may be that there'll be comments added again. Most of the comments pertain to intermittent odors along, so for the audience, the septic line, once it exits the wastewater treatment facility, goes underneath Scenic Drive, which is a road that is perpendicular, and it runs all the way down to the river. There are various neighbors who've been there a while who, and one woman sort of dated for us which days she could smell, which days she hadn't. But in the meantime, both Mr. Paci, the project engineer at the time, as well as Mr. OTERO were out on site doing as much investigating as they could, and they could never determine what the source of any of the malodorous water was. And because it's intermittent, we can't really tell which system might be failing because they're all tied into one line that goes down. But it's possible that we'll hear public comment again at the next meeting, or at the May 2nd meeting. Anything else on this application? I know you have your hand raised, but we don't take public comment or questions at this, but you can talk to me afterwards. How's that? Thank you. Then we'll see you at the May 2nd meeting, and I'll let my plans to save you some money, because I'd rather you used it on decommissioning that tank correctly. We'll get the plans sent over to DC Planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And the next item on the agenda is
How you
MINTZER
doing, man?
Veterinary Clinic. Dr. MINTZER.
Yeah.
Michael, you guys want to come on up?
Be all right?
So for individuals in the audience, this is,
All right, take care of it, Nancy. Good seeing you, yeah.
this was already approved, and this is actually going up. It's a beautiful gambrel-style, gambrel roofed building that's located at the intersection of South Cross and Route 9. It's going to be a veterinary clinic. It was replacing an abandoned landscaping firm that, it's a tough site to develop. And Dr. MINTZER and his workers have made some field changes. Our code allows our zoning administrator to, if they're minor, say, oh, it's small enough, it doesn't have to go back to the planning board. But in this case, she decided it was too much, she wanted a record of it, so it's back before us. In the meantime, we've been having some issues trying to resolve what the plans we are submitted that we're seeing versus the lighting schedule and what we see actually going up on the building. So you're going to explain everything for us tonight, I hope.
Hello, everybody. Glad you had us again. What we have is, on the original plan, we didn't have any lighting on the exterior of the building where the gambrel roof comes down. And I brought a picture because Peter had a question about,
Yeah, could
it even be
it,
possible?
could it even fit?
Yeah, and the overhang's about 15 inches.
Oh, it is that
And our
much.
lights are 4, so
Okay.
we have, it's sufficient. We were more concerned with security at night, being that our photometrics don't penetrate to the highway. Matter of fact, they're so minimal at candle power, people in the building couldn't see anybody even walking up the driveway. And it's mainly a female staff, and they do work sometimes really, really late at night, and it is kind of the boondocks.
Well, let's not go
Ms.
that
Dexter
far.
lives, Ms. Dexter lives right there.
Compared to that Amish market, it's the boondocks.
Okay, there you go. Good. Nice comeback,
Yeah.
Mike.
And then what we had thought was, it would also give a nice look, kind of like what you have here.
Like a wash, right?
Exactly. And they're not high candle power, and I have it listed, exactly what lights we're using and the kelvins. And then there's a lot of question about the front entrance, where I can understand, when you're looking down at the plans, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you see all this lighting. But what in fact it is it's dispersed amongst the canopy, it's up on the overhang, and then we have 2 underneath, and then we have 2 decorative sconce lights.
On either side. Part of the
Like
problem
Kevin.
was that the numbers that you had in the plan set don't tie to the numbers that you're showing on the building.
Yeah,
We had like 16 when there were 14 that we could count.
but what happened in the beginning was, we had planned to have the soffit lighting go up the gambrel and down on both sides. And then Howard, myself, and talking to other people were like, well, let's not try to wash out the neighbor that's on the South Cross Road, so let's just eliminate him. So in my ignorance, I was like, let's just eliminate the lights, not thinking it'd be a problem. But it turned out our count got messed up. And then the other problem with the count was we changed electrician supervisors. So the first guy was on top of everything, and the second guy could care less. So I've been the electrician supervisor, project manager, and engineer trying to just tie this all together and putting Cynthia through all of it. But I think we have the photometrics to where it needs to be, and the poles are gonna be black, and I'll make sure that that's stated in the final set of plans. And, I mean, if the town doesn't see anything wrong with our lighting photometrics or the light penetration, we'd just like to proceed.
We want you to proceed.
Are they in already, or no?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, I wanted permission.
Cool.
It's
Good answer.
Right.
So, rather than Ms. Polidoro, I'm writing this resolution, so that's why I just needed to make sure I had an accurate count of what I'm writing for it to be
Okay.
in, because I do these things for free for you.
Right.
So, I just need to make sure, that we were prepared to take action tonight, but then when Cynthia, our secretary, said, wait, these numbers don't tie in, I went, So I just wanted to make sure we understood exactly what was being proposed. For the board, initially, the highest foot candle was shown as, I think, 14.5.
Right.
That's now been reduced substantially. We keep having this discussion, so, and this will be a verification for you guys back there in a class. The Dutchess County Planning produces what are called Greenway Guidelines, and if you buy into them, which our town has, as most municipalities in this county have, they become an enforceable part of your code, as long as it's written that way, once they're adopted. Our code specifically refers to the Greenway Lighting Guide, rather than trying to write its own. Under the Greenway Lighting Guide, and I must emphasize again, they're sick of hearing me say this, but back when that was written, we were looking at metal halide and sodium vapor lights. Now we look at LEDs. Metal halide and sodium vapor produce different kinds of light, and so you were really trying to make sure that for foot candles, they recommended 2 be the highest. But that's because those were bright, either yellowish or bright white lights. In the case of LEDs, they're pinpointed rather than dispersing all around. So they pinpoint and they create much hotter spots. That's why you get a hot spot like that. So the board's policy has been to try to figure out, as long as the foot candles go down to 0 at the property line, which is what's in our code, as long as there's no light trespass or pollution going up, we've been trying to take it on a case-by-case basis and make sure that the hot spots don't linger too long. And in this case, when it was really high, it was going like 25 feet before it started really going down substantially, which is a long way before it goes down. So we didn't want to make sure there'd be glare on people driving at night. Really during winter when it's dark and you're still going to have open office hours, I know. But you were able to reduce them down.
Oh,
and the other point to make is that whereas before it took 25 feet, now it takes about 10, or the average length of a car before it goes down substantially, which to me personally seems okay. But we wanted to Tad wanted to make sure before she said that's all right, that the board had this discussion that we were all okay. So do I get nods of yes?
Yes.
There we are.
Question.
Yes.
Question. Is the, you're removing the lights on the South Cross Road
Yes.
side?
Yeah.
Is the dog walk area still gonna be lit or not?
It's just gonna have an external light that's in
On
the
the
set
side
of
of the building.
plans,
Okay.
like a little
On the
dull
side of the building.
sconce.
Got it. Okay.
And we also got the lighting down to yellow as well. I took out the white and made it yellow on top of lowering. And on your plan, it shows the light that we're having, and I highlighted which
Yes.
light we had, being that there's so many in there. There's like,
So, since we've had a recommendation for waiver of site plan, for the public hearing, I should say, for this. So at the next meeting, I'll have a resolution prepared. I'll pass it around to everybody. Actually, I can try to work on it as early as next week. But I do need a final set of plans from you so I can refer to it. Does the board need to have more plans, or can I just have them submit a final 4 set for us? Yes.
Yeah, a couple things. So as far as the north, Mike, as far as the north and the south elevations go, are you still proposing the recessed lights up high on, the gambrel?
yes, for the south side, not the north side, or not the north side.
Not the north side? Okay.
So that's 4.
Do you get
gone.
that they're gonna have these 4 lights up high on, the peak? I just wanna make sure that you're okay with it, because there's, there's also gonna be 4 lights underneath, the porch, soffit, so you're gonna have that
Just
lighted up.
two,
lights.
Just
and then
two.
2 in the upper canopy.
Okay, so you must have revised it or something.
There's gonna be 2 here, and then 2 under.
Oh,
And then the uppers, 1, 2, 3, 4.
okay.
It's hard to see on the plan, this like.
Yeah, no,
really
okay,
spells
as
it
long
out.
as the
I don't know if
plan-
Anybody else wants to see it or not.
Can you show us, please?
So,
And the other-
Show us where?
So you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4 under canopy, and then as the building goes up, 1, 2,
in the soffit for the,
it's just the overhangs.
So it'll be in the sun.
And these are eyeball lights that are actually twist downwards, so there's no sideways.
these actually, the light is focusing on the building itself, as I recall, correct?
Just watch.
In other words, it's going to look sort of like when you see a resident, for heck's sake, my house is lit that way. I mean, you'll see a wash of light. Some goes up, some goes down to show the wall itself, the
Yeah,
panel.
that's all. I mean, our other, to keep it light, our other thing would be leave lights on inside those windows, and that would really look bad and it'd be very, very bright,
Well, I didn't think you were making it look like Las Vegas either, thank heavens, so. Because that would be inappropriate in that area, and plus it's not your style, I know.
So the other thing is, Paul's plans don't match, the lighting plan. So, so you just need to make sure that, because we're gonna reapprove these plans, so we just need to make sure that either all of the lighting comes off of Paul's plan, and maybe that's, well, I don't know if you can do that or not. We just wanna make sure that whatever Paul shows on his plans matches exactly what's on, the lighting plan. Or at least refers to the lighting plan.
We were trying to figure out a way to make it easier for you, so that you could have something that refers to a separate set of plans as lighting, or you can have Mr. Tierham's just change his sunset, because remember, Tad is a strict constructionist, the zoning administrator. And so what is approved is what she wants to see.
Right.
And she's granted a little bit of leeway, but she's already sent you back once. I don't want you coming back again.
Yeah. No,
You don't want to be here either.
I got a pretty good grasp on it now, a little more than before.
I'm here all week next week, so as soon as you're ready, you have my email, just contact me so I can maybe meet you here even, we can give a quick go-through, because that's what I'll be using to write the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I had
Yes.
a question.
Thank you.
So being that Tad is a strict constructionist, the one thing I'm not seeing on here, noted anywhere on the site plan, are all the large boulders. So there's an exceptionally large one right at the corner of South Cross Road and Route 9.
Yes.
It's not shown on your plan here, so I'm hoping that is not going to remain there.
We're gonna take it and bring it back off of the property.
Well, I think you still have to show it on your plan then, because if
Oh, I
it's
see.
going to be
Okay.
on your site
Gotcha.
and it's a thing,
Okay.
it has, so just as you've noted your rock ledge,
Right.
on a similar vein, on the southern side of your entrance, there's also some boulders there now.
Okay.
If they're gonna stay, they need to be
Okay.
on
Yeah,
here,
label them.
because they are substantial
They are,
and don't want to have to see you come back in here.
for a
But-
boulder.
Yeah, really, exactly, I mean.
No, that
um,
makes sense.
But especially that one at the corner, because you know,
Nobody likes it, I know.
Nobody likes
Nobody
it.
likes it. We didn't put it there.
no, I know you didn't, but it was moved there in the last 10
Yeah,
years or
it's a little
so.
close to that corner.
It's very
Yeah.
close.
No, we'll take
So
care of
I would appreciate, and just a reminder that it would need to be shown on the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for
Mhm.
remembering that. Anything else?
Oh.
Okay,
I
yes.
have one last thing. Can we proceed with our concrete, our front porch pad and our rear pad and our partial curbage?
So you are proceeding under an approved site plan. You have no
Right.
stop work orders, so as far as I know, you can proceed with everything.
Well, we changed the size of everything, so I just wanted to make sure we had approvals. Now, our generator pad, can we pour that? I haven't heard if we.
It's
have-
on the plan, I mean, yeah, it's whatever, I mean, you gotta get it done, we're not
And
gonna
it's
not
appro-
approve
yeah,
the
it's-
generator.
Okay,
We don't want to speak for Mr. Westermeyer.
I have already.
If Mr. Westermeyer is allowing you to proceed, then you should proceed.
Yeah, I've already talked to him.
You know, you work with him long enough, you become that way. Yeah, you work with him long enough, you become friends with him
And I
that
just,
way.
one more thing I wanted to say, that is a beautiful building.
Yeah, it does look
It's
really
just,
nice,
it
yeah.
really, it just looks like it belongs there.
And it's
It-
not beige.
Howard, we're so proud of the investments you made in the community, I can't tell you. Seriously.
it's
I didn't know what I was doing. I said, that looks nice, let's do that. That looks nice.
Well,
and
it's just
worked out.
such a joy to see that after, after all the iterations that we've been
Yeah.
seeing at that site.
I'm happy with it. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Every time I go by, I think, oh, I smile, so.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the full site open and running. I know you're really waiting
Yeah,
for that,
I'm
so.
dying to move up there and,
Okay, well, we may or may not see you in 2 weeks. You don't even have to be here, really. Just make sure that I get all your information. Let me know when you're ready, okay? Thank you very much. Good to see you again.
thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
And the consultants may depart. You don't have anything left that requires you.
So I
probably want to
I have a
stay.
small question, do we know what time that we're meeting tomorrow?
10:30.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
For everyone up on the board, there's an offline meeting tomorrow with the Bellafield Hotel applicants. They requested it. It's really to discuss the open development area again with the attorneys, but they requested that everybody be there, or that the consultants be there. The next one on the agenda is HILLIKER Garage. This is a garage replacement at a site that's also in the National Historic Registry. We have a recommendation for the waiver of site plan from the zoning administrator, plus they got their ZBA variance. Last but not least, it's not visible from the actual Vanderbilt Historic Site. Who has this file?
I do. Town of Hyde Park Planning Board, Alan Hilliker. Site plan waiver, Town Code Section 108-9.4C2. April 4th, 2018, resolution number 2018-13. Whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Alan Hilliker on March 8th, 2018, for property
Thank you.
located 8 Howard Boulevard in the Town of Hyde Park. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives the site plan requirements for the file entitled HILLIKER Garage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. The next item, that's why I asked you to stay for a moment, Pete. The next item, I hadn't really paid attention to what was proposed. I just looked at the visuals, because this is actually across the street from me. And the rear, what they're proposing to be added on, this is OTERO, is not visible from the river. However, Mr. Pickett actually read the whole file, and they're going from a 2 to 3 bedroom. Now, I know that the reason why it was a 2-bedroom was because it was limited by septic under the original approval when it was constructed.
Oh, and that's based on bedrooms, right?
And that's based on bedroom count. So, do we know that
That would be me.
is there anything inside there that they've already gone to Department of Health for approval? Because when you add a bedroom, you have to get your septic.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
if they
you have to
didn't,
get a lot of,
if they didn't, Westermeyer, would pick that up
Flag
as
it?
part of a building permit, but it'd be good to flag it now if they haven't.
right here?
That's the request.
Okay.
I thought one of these.
I mean, that area down there is all rock.
That site, they spent a fortune, the people who built it, the Bordens, spent a fortune having to blast out.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, is that the one that like?
The lighthouse.
The lighthouse, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, with the pond in front of it. it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
that was a tough site to develop. Can you guys read that one of you read that into the record? Can we see it? Down here?
Absolutely not.
This is dated back in 2008. And this was about adding the guest house. We still have an open application. Remember they wanted to add a small house to the left of the driveway or north side of the driveway?
And
Do you
was
remember
it
that?
septic a concern then?
Yes.
Oh, that was just for seeker.
Oh, but wait, it appears by our records that the SDS met plan requirements for a 3-bedroom home, but only a 2-bedroom home was constructed. That they have no further issues with a 1-bedroom guest house because it was actually built for a 3-bedroom.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, so we're fine. Thanks for catching that. Thanks, Pete, for staying. Okay, so Chan, you may read the resolution.
Why don't you read the resolution?
Nice job, Glenn.
Okay.
Yeah, good catch.
There we go. Resolution number 2018-14, April 4th, 2018. Whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by OTERO, I believe, on March 13th, 2018, for property located at 41 Curry Lane in the Town of Hyde Park, and whereas now therefore be resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled OTERO Edition regarding the specific request submitted March 13, 2018, and in the building permit application file dated March 13, 2018 by Orlando Otero.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. The last,
Did I
second to
butcher
last.
that name?
Otero. Alejandro Otero.
Okay. I
The
thought it was close.
last one on the agenda is a request by Louise DECARO for a site plan waiver as well. Her property is located at 9 Maple Lane. This is actually pretty much just behind the Oteros, and it is not visible from either one of the historic sites or from the river, so we have the recommendation from the zoning administrator to waive the public hearing, or waive site plan review and a public hearing. Who has this file?
I do. April 4th, 2018, site plan waiver. Resolution 2018-18, whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Louise DECARO on March 27, 2018, for property located at 9 Maple Lane in the Town of Hyde Park. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives the site plan requirements for the file entitled DECARO Replacement Windows regarding the specific request as submitted March 27, 2018, and in the building permit application file dated March 12, 2018 by Louise DECARO.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And the last item would be, have you all had a chance to, actually, I know Ann Dexter did because she wrote me back. Have you all had a chance to take a look at the recommendation letter I prepared for us to go to the variance request for Associates Golf Car
Yes.
Service? Do I make a motion?
Another very well written.
Thank you. Making a motion to authorize me to send it to the ZBA.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn, ladies and gentlemen.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you all for a quick night tonight.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.